Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sylvia, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button down below because I post crazy true crime stories each week. Last week's video was about Paulette Gerbera, the little girl who was dead in her bed for 9 days before she was discovered. And that is a case where you can debate whether or not it was an accident, and I think we'll be having the same debate this week with my video on Amber and Josh Hilberling. Amber Hilberling was born Amber Whitlock in 1991, and she was described as a smart, pretty girl who loved to do her nails, go shopping, all of the stereotypical kind of girly girl things, but she also maintained a 4.0 GPA in her entire high school career. Josh Hilberling was also born, I think, around the same time as Amber, if not the same year, because they did meet each other in high school. He was the high school star of the football team. He was very athletic. So when he and Amber started dating, it really seemed just like a match made in heaven. Like they were like that beautiful couple. They had a huge height difference, which people think is really cute. They instantly like fall in love with each other, and they decide to get married despite dating for less than a year. And I think this had something to do with the fact that Josh was joining the military, and in order to live on the base with him, Amber had to be his wife. So they get married in their town of Tulsa, Oklahoma, before Josh and Amber head off to Fairbanks, Alaska, where he starts his career as an army man in the Air Force. So Josh and Amber argue a lot. They're just one of those couples that is like constantly at each other's throats. They bickered about everything, and unfortunately these fights would get physical and they would both throw stuff at each other or shove each other around. But despite all of this, Amber gets pregnant with Josh's baby. And unfortunately, their life plans have to change drastically after Josh is kicked out of the military for manufacturing drugs. After this, Josh and Amber move in with Amber's mom in Tulsa, and they are living with her for a few months, but their fighting is continuing, and I think that that might have been the motivation for Amber's mom to set them up in a high-rise apartment in the center of their city. Amber and Josh move into this apartment, and being alone with each other really doesn't help with their arguing. Like, they love each other a lot, but they're really fighting about money and about just like their different lifestyles. And this is where it kind of turns into a he said, she said. According to Amber in her Women Who Kill interview, she says that Josh didn't stop using drugs or selling drugs once she became pregnant. And with a baby on the way, Amber was really ready to, jump into adulthood and start this next stage of her life. But unfortunately, Josh just wasn't there yet. And he was excited for the baby, but he wasn't ready to get a job that was like a standard job opposed to dealing drugs. And this is interesting because on the perspective of Josh, he actually was talking to his father in 2011, and he was telling his dad that Amber wouldn't stop using drugs even though she was pregnant, and it was making him really uncomfortable. So he was actually planning on potentially leaving Amber and then taking custody of their son once he was born. So Josh and Amber are living alone together in this high-rise Tulsa apartment on the 25th floor, and all of their neighbors report that they would get into arguments all the time, screaming matches that could be heard through the walls. They were very noisy neighbors. These fights were both verbal and physical. There was one occasion where Josh squeezed Amber's boob in an attempt to pop her breast implant. And there was another incident where Amber threw a lamp at Josh's head and he got cut up very badly. He actually had to get stitches in his head, and this incident prompted him to get a domestic violence restraining order against Amber. However, neither party honored this restraining order. They just kept living together. They just kept doing their things. Clearly, this was a very toxic relationship where they fought constantly, but they still didn't want to leave each other. So on June 7th, 2011, Amber is visibly pregnant with Josh's son at this point. And Josh is on the phone to his dad talking about how toxic their relationship is. And he and his dad come to the conclusion that it would be best if he left Amber and moved out. So they're not 100% sure if they're going to break up, but he does think that they need to live apart for a while. Shortly after this phone call with his dad, Josh and Amber get into another fight where he throws a laundry basket at her. And he misses, but the laundry basket does hit their window and the window cracks. Yeah, these windows are really thin. I'll get into that later. But the maintenance man comes in and he says that when he can walk in, like you can feel the tension in the air. It's like you could cut it with a knife. Like he can tell that they've been fighting all day and he begins to inspect the window. The cracked window is in the living room, but in order to operate on it, this maintenance man stands on the balcony of their bedroom. And at this time, the couple's not yelling, but the man can tell that they've been fighting. And however, the maintenance man is not watching them when he hears a glass shatter and a scream. Josh has fallen out of the couple's 25th story apartment. He fell right through the window. And this high-rise apartment like really stuck out on the skyline of Tulsa. So there were plenty of witnesses who saw him falling. And shortly thereafter, there are several 911 calls reporting what these people are seeing. So Josh is falling 25 stories and he lands on top of a parking deck. So he actually only falls 17 stories, but still this is way more than the average human body can handle. So he dies on impact, and that is a really far height to fall from. So it is not a pretty picture. Amber screams and tells the maintenance guy that she's going to go down and, assess the damage, I guess. I mean, he's definitely not surviving that. And at this point, multiple witnesses report hearing her screaming and crying. She rides the elevator down to the 17th floor and runs out to see Josh's body. It was severely damaged from this. Like there was blood everywhere. His bones were like sticking out through his skin. The police and ambulance arrive and they decide to take Amber in just so that they could get a better idea of what happened and how Josh fell out of this window. She rides in the front seat of the deputy's car, and she even describes it herself as being just a very casual atmosphere. She's not considered a suspect at this time, but they do sit her in one of the interrogation rooms with her grandma, who she previously had called and who met her at the station. So Amber and her grandmother are sitting alone in the interrogation room, and what they don't realize is the fact that there is a hidden camera in this room. And Amber gets to talking to her grandmother, and what happens next is probably some of the most shocking interrogation footage I've ever seen.
Josh is dead. His bones were sticking out all over his body. His whole body was broken. And I just held him and kissed his cheeks and screamed for him to wake up. This is gonna turn into a nightmare.
You just have to pray. We'll get through it.
I don't deserve to pray. Who am I praying to, Josh? Josh hates me. I'm not even gonna be able to meet him in heaven anymore because he just hates me. I killed him.
Amber, stop talking like that.
What kind of person am I?
You're a loving person that has been abused by Josh just as well.
No, I'm a horrible person who could do that. Who could do that? Push my husband and make him fall out the window. I wish I could just go back and know that if I pushed him, it was going to happen.
Amber, quit saying you pushed him out the window. Did you intentionally?
No,
Okay.
Of course not.
Okay, that's what they're gonna take it as, baby. That's why I said everything that you say, they're gonna in a different manner, because they're gonna say, okay, Amber.
I just don't understand this whole
Legal system.
No, not that. I don't understand the whole pattern of events of the last year. Us getting married and going to Alaska. Everything in Alaska. Me being pregnant. Coming back here. Getting kicked out of Mom's house. Going to the apartment. And then all for it to Josh just fall out of a high-rise building.
I wish y'all would have never went to the apartment.
I mean, what are the chances? How many times has that happened? All Josh's friends, his family, they're gonna know he died because he fell out of a high-rise apartment. And I just keep watching him fall. Over and over and over again in my head. Watching him flail and think that my last thought was, please catch yourself. And I just want to know what was going through his head. If he knew he was gonna die. If he said a prayer, or if he cursed my name, or if he just thought that he could catch himself too. And then just watching him hit the ground.
Is there no balcony there from the living room?
No.
Amber starts making some very incriminating statements to her grandmother. She's saying, like, I killed him, Josh is dead because of me. She even says that Josh's parents always said that one day she'd kill him. And the grandmother is like trying to help her. She's like, Amber, stop talking. Amber, we're in a police station. But Amber, I think she's just like so in shock. And she's also just like, I feel like she's lived a very privileged life, and I don't think she understands like the severity of her actions, because it doesn't really sound like her or Josh even have ever had like real responsibilities. Like, their apartment was paid for. Amber seems like she was like a very spoiled kid growing up. I mean, she had breast implants at the age of 19, and I'm not hating on anybody who has breast implants. I wish I had breast implants, but she was like 18 when she got those, and she wasn't paying for that. Like, her mom probably bought those for her. So like, I think it just kind of shows the life that Amber has lived, and I don't think that she would be seen as the villain as quickly as she was in this case. And the officer is writing his report, and he is overhearing what she's saying, and he's like, hold on 1 minute. So they let Amber talk for like a good 30-40 minutes before they step in and start asking her to make an official statement. And to her shock, Amber is arrested for the murder of her husband, Josh Hilberling. There's the history of domestic violence, there's the restraining order, and like, they don't give those out to just anybody. In order to get a restraining order, you have to really demonstrate how that person is a threat to you. And the state of Oklahoma agreed and gave Josh the restraining order. And then also, Josh was planning on leaving her. There's actually a packed duffel bag in the crime scene photos that was full of Josh's stuff. There's also the very damning fact that Josh's family knew that Amber had been hurting him, and they were actually worried for his safety. Josh's dad even says that when the police officer called him to tell him that his son had passed away, he just knew that Amber had done something. So the coroner does an autopsy on Josh's body, and he finds that Josh definitely went out that window head first, so he didn't jump on his own. And then also, they can't tell if he was facing forward or backwards, and that is kind of where this case gets a little murky. because they can't tell if like he was approached from behind or if he was pushed like from the front, because that would be like a very different argument either way. Another interesting thing is that Josh's toxicology report comes back clean. So even though Amber said that Josh was selling and using drugs before his death, this means that he had not used any substances in the days or weeks before his passing. The state of Oklahoma offers Amber multiple plea deals for this case because it is kind of a foggy one. On the one hand, there's the fact that she had hurt him before. This was clearly like a toxic and abusive relationship. But then on the other hand, the windows in this apartment were shockingly thin. Like, they were in the 25th floor, and this window was able to break with just like somebody being thrown against it. That's horrifying. A window examiner actually took a look at the scene and it said that the window glass was as thin as like the glass in a picture frame. And then on top of that, he also said that the window had been mounted to the building improperly. So when Josh was thrown against it, it almost just like opened outwards. Amber rejects multiple plea deals, in addition to one that's just 5 years in prison. If I had been in her position, I'd be like, oh honey, I'm taking that so fast. 5 years in prison for killing somebody? Oh my God. But no, Amber has complete faith in the justice system, and she'd rather stand trial and be acquitted of the murder rather than admit to anything. So Amber is released on bond, and she gives birth to her son, who she names Levi, on August 7th, 2011. And she actually has her bond revoked and has to go back to jail because she fails 2 drug tests and then also fails to keep her ankle bracelet, her ankle those like ankle monitors that like people have to wear. She fails to keep that charged 10 times. So Amber stands trial for the murder of her husband in 2013, and there's a media frenzy around this case. There's the juicy part where like she was pregnant, he was pushed out a window. I feel like you never hear about people dying that way. This is just a case that the whole city of Tulsa is obsessed with. Amber does get a very unfair treatment by the press, I think. She gets a lot of sexist comments. We saw this in the Dingo Ate My Baby case where like her mom was attractive and looked good in the outfits she wore, so people were giving her hate for that. And Amber gets those same comments. It's like comments about her boobs being too big. It's comments about her like trying to look too sexy for court. Which, like, I don't know. I mean, if you have big boobs, you have big boobs, and they're gonna look big in whatever outfit you wear. I don't know why she's wearing jeans in court, though. That's, like, one thing that I thought was kind of weird. In court, Amber's defense says that Josh grabbed onto her and she feared for her and her baby's safety. So she pushed him off of her and he stumbled backwards and then went through the window. However, the police think that Josh was doing something with the TV and he was bent over and Amber ambushed him from behind. This is supported by the fact that the neighbor who lived directly below them said that he didn't hear any yelling or arguing leading up to the push. However, he did hear the sound of footsteps running down the hallway. And that could have been Amber like charging at Josh to like push him really hard. Big Little Lies style. They have the families testify. Josh's family really turned against Amber. Like, they did not believe any bit of her defense. They think that she killed him in cold blood. They have the neighbors testify. They have the whole toxicology report. They have the autopsy. And to her shock, Amber is found guilty of second-degree murder and she's sentenced to 25 years in prison. Amber is devastated because she didn't expect this at all. And now she has to go to prison even though she has a young son. Amber is booked into a medium security prison and she reportedly does not have a good time. Which is prison, nobody has a good time. But she has a very difficult time due to the publicity of her case. She grew up spoiled, so this was a very different situation to be in. She reportedly had a lot of money on the books. She was doing plenty of interviews. She did the Women Who Kill interview. She also was on Dr. Phil. So, this kind of rubs inmates the wrong way, and Amber develops quite the rap sheet in prison, and I'm putting that up on the screen now so you can see all the stuff that she was written up for. From within prison, Amber maintains that her and Josh had a loving relationship, but through all of that love, there was also plenty of fighting on both sides. She says that she's never tried to paint herself as Little Red Riding Hood and him being the big wolf, but she does say that she only meant to shove him a little bit and she didn't mean for him to go through the window, because who could expect that on the 25th floor the window would break that easily? Well, the window had broken earlier that day, so Amber knew that the windows in this apartment may have been a little faulty, yet she shoved Josh towards one anyway. Amber believes that if her and Josh had waited a while to get married until they were more mature, they would have had a storybook ending. And this tragic story comes to a tragic end in 2016 when Amber is found dead hanging in her jail cell. The coroner's report says that Amber had died of asphyxia, and she also had meth in her system at the time of her death. She also had some fresh scarring on her wrist, indicating that she really wasn't in a good place mentally, and that maybe she did, want to do harm to herself. And the Tulsa police determined that Amber had died at her own hand. And her family really doesn't believe this. They say that she seemed like she was in great spirits when they talked to her last. Also, the day before her death, she had written back to a reporter agreeing to do an interview. But, I totally get how somebody in that situation might want to end their stay early. I have to be really careful about the words I use on YouTube. But, she was in prison for killing someone she loved. I'm sure that she felt guilty. I think the fact that she ended up doing this to herself shows that she felt bad about it. I think the real question, though, is if she did it on purpose or not. Amber's son lives with Josh's family now, and they feel very different about her death. When it was announced that Amber had passed away in prison, Josh's brother took to Facebook to write this message. Josh's family has filed charges against the University Club Tower, which was the apartment building that they lived in. They allege that there was non-safety glass used in these windows and they were just in general not up to code. When Josh fell through the window, Amber says that it sounded like a glass bowl breaking, not even a huge window, and it was almost like the glass wasn't even there. So I think that we can all agree that the apartment was negligent in the installation of these windows, because it's so terrifying that just being pushed against a window could make you go break and go out of it and fall 17 stories. That's terrifying. So please tell me what you guys think about the case of Josh and Amber Hilberling. In my personal opinion, I do feel like she was abusive to him. I think they were abusive to each other. This relationship sounds toxic as hell. And I think on that day, Amber was really mad at Josh and she wanted to push him, to hurt him, but she just didn't expect him to go out the window and to fall to his death. So I think that she received a fair sentence, 25 years in prison for second-degree murder. Based on what she did, but I'm not minimizing her guilt at all or her shame, because I do think that she felt bad about it, and it is really sad now that poor Levi has to grow up without both of his parents. Do you guys think that Amber meant to push Josh out the window, or if she pushed him and he stumbled? I would love to hear what you guys think about this case. In the eyes of the law, this case is solved, but I think there's lots of room for debate. Please leave a comment about what you think happened on that day in June 2011. Thank you so much for watching my video. Again, please like and subscribe to support my channel. It's free, it just takes a few seconds. I really appreciate it. And until next time, have a great day and stay safe.